Elon Musk, frozen upon seeing Black Beggar with mysterious necklace. The millionaire never forgot. Jack Lawson didn't expect his evening to twist into something he couldn't shake. The city buzzed around him. Honking cars screamed, sirens wailed in the distance. People pushed past in sharp coats and tired faces. Neon signs flickered, splashing walls with color. It all felt loud, fast, unforgiving. Jack walked down a crowded street in Lower Manhattan, his phone tucked away for once. He had built everything, from a tiny startup to a sprawling business empire. But success always came with a shadow, and tonight felt heavier than usual. He froze, sitting on the cracked sidewalk. Barely covered by a thin, ragged blanket was a black woman. Her eyes locked on him like lightning, cutting through the noise. Her clothes hung loose and torn, hair tangled like the streets. But what grabbed Jack was the necklace. A heavy chain draped around her neck, holding a pendant glinting faintly under the streetlight. It wasn't just the silver. It was the shape, the symbol. It slammed into Jack's chest like a hammer. His breath caught, chest tightening as memories spilled forward. A night years ago, cold and cruel. A scream swallowed in the dark. Faces he wished he could forget. That necklace, he'd seen it before. Back then, back in his broken past. The woman's eyes didn't blink. They bore into him, pressing past the walls Jack had built. He felt an icy knot twist in his gut. His hands trembled, jaw clenched. Something dangerous stirred, something rotten hiding beneath the shine of his success. "Do you remember?" Her voice cracked, raw but steady, pulling him closer than a whisper. Around them, the city didn't stop. But in that space, the night pressed heavy. Shadows gather in alleyways, men in suits sharp enough to cut, their eyes cold and calculating. They watched. They waited for him to make a move. Or maybe for him to fall. Jack wanted to turn away, run back to his tower of glass and steel. But guilt held him tight. This woman, this haunting ghost from a fractured world, carried secrets that could shatter everything he'd built. She lived in a maze as twisted as Jack's climb. A maze lined with silence and pain, controlled by the same ruthless forces. The street noise faded behind the pounding in Jack's ears. Would he step forward and unwrap the tangle of their past? Could he find a way to mend the breaks? To own the ghosts he'd buried deep? Or would these shared shadows drag them both into a fight they couldn't win? The necklace gleamed again as the woman's gaze never left him, daring him to choose. The night air sharpened. Somewhere a siren screamed nearby. The cold crept closer. Jack's world tilted. The first thread of truth pulled tight. And he realized some secrets don't stay hidden forever. What will he risk to find redemption? And who really controls the story? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like that really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Jack's heart thundered. He felt the air thicken around him. The woman's eyes were storm clouds, dark and deep, pulling him into an unseen tempest. She leaned forward, the necklace catching light again, radiating urgency, desperation. "Do you remember?" "Aye." Her voice wheezing through the noise. Before Jack could answer, a loud crash pierced the air. A glass bottle shattered on the sidewalk nearby, sending shards flying like dangerous confetti. Heads turned. The woman's gaze flickered, half turning as though sensing trouble before Jack could. And then it happened. Chaos erupted. A man burst onto the scene, racing past Jack and the woman, yelling into a phone, his eyes wild with fear. "No, don't! They're coming!" He stumbled, nearly crashing into Jack. Looked at him, then at the woman. Terror spilling from his gaze. Jack instinctively stepped back, fear blasting through him. Confusion washed over the crowd. Shouts intensified. "What's going on?" someone yelled. "Is everyone okay?" And then, out of nowhere, two figures in dark suits rounded the corner, faces masked with woven dread. They scanned the street like predators, sharp eyes locking onto Jack. The woman stood up, her blanket slipping. Jack reached for her, but she held up a hand. "Stay back," she breathed, voice now fierce. As the suited men closed in, the woman reached for her necklace with a swift motion. Jack's heart raced. "What are you doing?" "Hold on," she shot back, voice steady, almost comforting amid the chaos. In a split second, she yanked the pendant free, revealing a hidden compartment within it. A flash of metallic gleam caught Jack's eye. A key? A flash drive? But just as he took a step closer, a loud crack pierced the air. A gun fired. People screamed. The crowd surged, a wave of panic crashing in all directions. Jack felt the world tilt. The woman gasped, clutching her pendant tightly, a flicker of realization sparking in her eyes. "You shouldn't have come here!" The nearest suited man lunged forward, reaching for her. Jack instinctively pushed her aside, adrenaline surging. "Run!" he yelled, grabbing her hand, the cold metal of the pendant digging into his palm. He pulled her into the rushing swarm of bodies. They darted into an alley, hearts battling against the cacophony from the street. Behind them, the sounds of pursuit echoed, angry shouts and pounding footsteps. Jack's mind raced. Who were they? And what did the woman know? "Jack," she gasped, catching her breath, as they pressed against the brick wall, shadows swallowing them whole. "We can't let them find us." But as he looked into her eyes, horror struck. He realized he didn't even know her name. A deep rumble shook the ground. Was it an explosion? An earthquake? Jack squinted down the alley, terror seeping in. "Jack!" she whispered fiercely, but it was too late. A figure emerged from the shadows, someone familiar. "I'm sorry," the figure said, a voice he knew too well, tinged with regret. "I didn't want you to find out like this." Jack's stomach turned. The world fractured around him as moments flashed through his mind. Betrayals, lies, faces he had trusted. The woman tensed beside him, her eyes widening. Hope and fear danced in the air. "Let me explain," the familiar voice insisted, stepping closer, revealing a face Jack thought he'd left behind. Everything Jack believed about who controlled his story began to unravel. In that moment, chaos settled around them like thick fog. Would this be the moment he found the truth, or buried deeper in deception? The city's noise faded, leaving only the heart-pounding silence of anticipation. Jack's heartbeat thundered in his chest as he stood frozen, his eyes locked with the woman on the ground. The world around him faded into a blur. The shouting, the car horns, the flickering lights. All that remained was her gaze, intense, unflinching. It rattled him. "Do you remember?" she asked again. The weight of her question knocked the breath from his lungs. Memories surged, vile and bitter, threatening to drown him. Then, suddenly, without warning, a shout pierced the air, a frantic cry that shattered their standoff. "Get down!" In an instant, chaos exploded. Jack's heart raced as he instinctively crouched low, adrenaline smashing through him. A figure in a black hoodie, hopelessly dashed past them, a blur of frantic movement and fear. Behind him, 2 police officers sprang into action, their shouts of "Stop!" drowned out by the roaring city. Everyone in the crowd jolted in surprise, watching, wide-eyed, hands covering mouths. The woman on the ground remained still, her eyes flaring wider, locked on to Jack. In that moment, Jack felt time stretch. He didn't hear the chaos around him, not the shouting or the footsteps pounding against the pavement. All he could sense was the urgency in her stare. The warning echoed through him. The man stumbled, panic fueling his flight. He skidded to a halt right next to Jack. In a flash, he reached toward the pendant hanging from the woman's neck. "Give it back!" he howled, desperation furrowing his features. Jack's mind whirled. "What? Who are you?" he stuttered, frozen between the 2 sides. Confusion twisted in his gut. The necklace, the symbol on it, was intertwined with secrets he once buried deep. Yet here they were, now dragged back into the light. The woman's face twisted in recognition. "No! It's not yours!" she shouted, her voice breaking with emotion. "It's the only part of my sister I have left." The man's eyes darted between them, a storm of panic and rage. The city buzzed around them. An invisible current of tension gripped the crowd, whispers spreading like wildfire. "Is he after her? What's happening?" Jack's pulse pounded in his ears. The world shifted. The revelation slammed into him with the force of a punch. The necklace held more than memories. It cradled a story full of hurt, betrayal, and grief. This was no ordinary night. Suddenly, the man lunged forward. Everything turned slow. Jack dove to the side, barely avoiding the chaos. The woman clutched the necklace, screams cutting through him like knives. "Stop!" he shouted, desperately searching for a solution. "They're not worth it." The air thickened, every breath heavy with tension. In that split second of commotion, another figure emerged. An older woman with silver hair, eyes fierce. She waded through the crowd, a fierce protector. "Get away from her!" the older woman shouted, pushing through the masses. Jack blinked, his mind racing. "What's going on? Who are you?" he managed to ask. The woman turned to him, face hollow yet fierce. "You don't know, do you?" Suddenly, a gunshot rang out. The sound cracked through the night like thunder, sending shockwaves through the crowd. Jack's breath hitched. The man fell to the ground, gripping his shoulder, eyes wide with disbelief. Time froze. Jack stared at the scene unfolding before him, a whirlwind of shock and reality, spiraling out of control. Everything was changing. Secrets were spilling out, and the truth lurked just beneath the surface. A truth he never anticipated. The night wasn't just about redemption. It was an unearthing of buried pain, an implosion of lives long tangled in darkness. As chaos erupted around them, Jack felt the weight of the woman's gaze, piercing into him. "Are you ready?" she whispered, voice barely audible over the chaos. His world was spinning as realization sank in. What had he just stepped into? In that breathless moment, every secret, every lie, every choice he's ever made lingered in the shadows, calling out to him, leaving him teetering on the edge of an uncertain future. Jack's heart pounded like a drum, echoing in his ears as he caught the woman's gaze. Her eyes, filled with fear and something deeper, seemed to pull him in, and the chaos around them faded into the background. "Are you ready?" she whispered, and in that moment, Jack wasn't sure. Ready for what? The air was thick with uncertainty. But before he could respond, a sudden flash lit up the alley. A small explosion, sending debris scattering. The crowd shrieked, faces twisted in shock. Jack ducked, instinctively shielding the woman, a reflex fueled by adrenaline. Dust filled the air, thick and oppressive, wrapping around them like fog. As he blinked through the haze, he noticed something shifting in the shadows. A figure darting closer, cloaked in uncertainty. It was a girl, maybe 15, with wild hair and eyes burning with urgency, yelling, "You have to help us!" "What? Who are you?" Jack shouted back, confusion bubbling within. The girl grabbed his arm, pulling him closer. "Please, they're coming for all of us. You have to trust me." Her voice trembled, but something about her sincerity cracked through the chaos. Suddenly, Jack realized the woman beside him was no longer just scared. She was terrified. "Get away from her!" she yelled at the girl, stepping back with instinctive protectiveness. "She's not safe!" "We aren't safe." The girl's eyes darted to the woman, then back to Jack. "No, we are all in this together. You don't understand what's happening. There's more at stake here." Before Jack could ask what she meant, a shadow loomed over them. A tall man in a dark coat appeared, face hidden in the shadows, yet his presence screamed danger. Jack felt the blood drain from his face. He knew that face. A ghost from his past. "It's time to face the music, Jack," the man said, voice smooth but laced with venom. "You can't hide anymore." "Stay back!" Jack shouted, stepping in front of the woman, heart racing. "What do you want from us?" The man grinned, almost amused. "Oh, it's not about what I want. It's what you've already lost." At that moment, the night crackled with tension. The girl screamed, "No!" and suddenly lunged toward the man, shoving something into his gut. A flash of metal gleamed. A knife? Jack's breath caught in his throat. Before he could process, a gunshot rang out, an echoing boom that felt like the earth itself shattered. He turned, horror gripping him as he saw the woman drop to the ground, clutching the pendant, eyes wide with shock. Time stretched. The noise faded, leaving only the pounding of Jack's heart. The girl gasped. "What did you do?" she shrieked, but the man simply moved forward, as if it meant nothing. And then, in the thick silence that followed, the woman whispered, her voice barely a breath. "Jack." Fear ignited in his veins. He knelt beside her, trembling hands brushing her face. Her breath was shallow, but she clutched the pendant tightly, a flicker of strength in her eyes. "It's not what you think." Jack's world spiraled. Questions pierced through him like arrows. What was going on? Who was this man? The truth hung in the air, heavy and bitter. Suddenly, that necklace, that haunting symbol, was a key. Perhaps to Jack's past. Perhaps to a future he was still too afraid to confront. The man's smile widened. "You've all been dancing in the dark, but the light's coming. Are you ready for the truth?" Jack felt his chest tight with dread, wondering whether this moment would break him or make him whole. Was there even a way out? The shadows gathered, the weight of unasked questions thickening the air. He turned back toward the woman as everything changed. "Stay with me," he pleaded. But uncertainty loomed large, waiting for an answer that felt forever out of reach. Jack's heart raced. The woman's eyes tightened, deep wells of history reflecting in the glint of that necklace. The night wrapped around them, thick with anticipation. Just as Jack opened his mouth to speak, a loud explosion shattered the air nearby. His muscles seized. The ground shook. A flash of light, dazzling, blinding, erupted from a few blocks away. People shrieked. Panic twisted through the crowd like a live wire. Jack stumbled back, instinct pushing him to protect himself, to flee. But as bodies pushed past him, a primal urge cut through the chaos. He turned back to the woman. She remained seated, unflinching, as if danger was a distant whisper. "Stay here." He shouted over the rising noise. Then he glanced toward the explosion. Thick, black smoke began to curl into the sky, consuming breaths and blaring alarm. He could see silhouettes rushing, frantic faces painted with shock and horror. "We need to move!" But she didn't budge. Her eyes burned with something fierce. "Do you know what this means?" A knot twisted tighter in his gut. The necklace had wrapped around their shared history, but now the past crashed against the present. Jack felt the weight of it all. "What do you mean?" "Find him." She yelled, desperation threading through her voice. "Find the man who gave me this necklace. He's the key to it all. It's about to unravel." Before he could digest her words, another blast rocked the street. People ducked, screams rising to a fever pitch. Jack's instincts kicked in. He reached for her hand, ready to pull her to safety. But as his fingers grazed her skin, an icy shock raced through him. Then he saw it, a flash of red light illuminating the crowd. A figure loomed in the smoke, dressed entirely in black. Jack squinted, straining to understand the chaos. The figure raised something high, glowing ominously. A detonator? No, it wasn't just a bomb. The necklace exploded to life in Jack's mind, twisting into a vision he could almost see. That symbol, it wasn't merely an ornament, it was a message. "Jack!" The woman's voice broke through the haze, urgent. "He's here! He's been watching you!" A haze of confusion burrowed deep, but before he could respond, cries erupted nearby. Another explosion shook the ground, this one closer. And the figure advanced, eyes locked on Jack. The man's face finally emerged from the smoke, familiar. Dread creeping in like a cold breeze. It was a face he'd thought lost to time, a ghost from his past. The very face that had haunted him years ago, before the success, before the walls, before the empire. Jack staggered back, breath hitching. You've been playing a dangerous game, haven't you? The man sneered, voice smooth as silk. And you didn't even remember. Jack's mind spun, recollections crashing like waves. The nights of darkness, the choices he thought he'd buried. Everything began to click. The woman, the necklace, it all connected. The crowd surged again, shifting away from the man. But Jack couldn't move. The secrets wrapped around him like chains. Then, in one swift moment, someone in the crowd drew a weapon. A shout, a scream, and before Jack could wrap his head around the threat, a shot rang out. Time stalled, adrenaline surged. Who was the target? As the body fell, everything went quiet except for the echoing heartbeat in Jack's ears. What had he walked into, and how deep did this conflict run? The darkness wrapped around him, a deadly embrace. Would this revelation bring him to his knees, or would it ignite a fire he never knew was inside him? The choice loomed heavy in the air. Jack's world tilted. The first thread of truth pulled tight, and he realized some secrets don't stay hidden forever. The woman's eyes, those deep pools of history, held him as he took a tentative step closer. Was it disbelief? Fear of what came next? He didn't know, but there was a pull, a magnetic force that wrapped around him, tightening like a noose. He could feel the city, the blaring horns, the rushing crowd fade away with each beat of his heart. "Do you remember?" she repeated, her voice unwavering despite the chaos that surrounded them. And then, without warning, the world erupted. A loud bang echoed from down the street, so sudden it felt like time stopped. Jack instinctively turned toward the sound, the woman's gaze still locked on him. Another bang. A shout pierced the air. Instinct kicked in. He pushed the woman back as a figure stumbled into view. A man, his clothes dark and tattered, staggering across the pavement, a heavy bag slung over his shoulder. "Get down!" a voice roared from behind, sharp and urgent. Jack's heart raced. The crowd began to scatter, people screaming, ducking for cover. He turned back to the woman, only to find her frozen in place, eyes wide, necklace glistening like a beacon amid the chaos. "Run!" he shouted, adrenaline pulsing through him. But she didn't move. Instead, she whispered something that cut through the noise like a knife. "Jack, it was you." The truth hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. His breath hitched, memories flooding back. He didn't know whether to deny it or scream. People pushed past them, chaos reigning supreme. The sound of sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. But all Jack could hear was her voice, piercing through the madness. That night, the night he thought he'd buried, the mistake that had followed him like a shadow. "I tried to save you!" he shouted, desperation thick in his throat, eyes searching hers for understanding, for forgiveness, for anything. But the man, the one who had stumbled earlier, was now bent over, clutching his side, blood seeping through his fingers. The sight jolted through Jack as if struck by lightning. The woman's eyes shifted from Jack to the wounded man, recognition flashing in a heartbeat. "That's him! That's the one! What do you mean? What do you know?" She took a step back, fear cracking her composure. The gem from her necklace now glowed ominously under the flickering streetlight, illuminating a truth Jack feared to name. Before he could process it, another shout rang out. "Get down!" The crowd's panic surged like a living thing, pushing Jack and the woman closer together. Then, a gunshot pierced through it all. Time slowed. Jack's breath caught, and everything shifted. The wounded man collapsed like a marionette with cut strings, the heavy bag tumbling next to him. The air turned electric, filled with a sudden silence as though the world held its breath. Jack stood frozen, shock knitting his features tight. The woman's gaze flickered to the fallen man, horror flashing across her face. In that split second, something monumental shifted. "Did you do this?" The accusation hung, raw and real. The crowd swirled around them, oblivious to the charged confrontation. "No!" Jack gasped, but his voice sounded weak even to his own ears, drowned by disbelief and rising tides of accusation. The truth they both had buried, did it now surface with a price? The necklace dangled between them like a guillotine. Behind, sirens wailed louder. Would he face the reality of who he was? Or was he just an architect of shadows built to fall? The city pulsed with tension. The moment thrummed. The night stretched, holding its breath. And so did Jack. Jack stood there, the weight of the woman's gaze suffocating him. Her necklace shimmered like a beacon of truth, pulling at his very core. The street swirled with noise, yet all he could hear was her whisper, carved from pain. "Do you remember?" Before he could answer, a sharp shout broke the air. "Get away from her!" Jack's head snapped to the source. A tall figure emerged from the shadows. Another man, eyes fierce, anger etched into his features. He wore a leather jacket, the kind that made you think twice before crossing paths. "Leave her alone!" he shouted again. The people around them turned, some stepping back, others clutching their phones, creating a snapshot of sudden chaos. The woman didn't flinch. Her eyes flickered from Jack to the newcomer, revealing a flicker of something more. Recognition? Fear? "Mark," she breathed, a tremor running through her. Jack's heart sank. Mark. He knew that name, the man from his past. A name that carried echoes of betrayal, shadows of shared misdeeds. Mark had been there on that dark night. The one that lured Jack into a web he couldn't escape. The chill in the air thickened as memories rushed back. Hushed conversations, heated arguments. The sweet taste of betrayal. In the moment of recognition, adrenaline surged. "You shouldn't be here!" Mark's voice sliced through the night. A challenge. "You have no idea what you're meddling with." Meddling? Jack's pulse raced, a mix of fear and defiance. "Who are you to decide that?" The silence stretched, throbbing. Jack's hands clenched, the weight of his choices resting heavy on him. The city's frantic vibe morphed into a deadly stillness. "Enough!" Mark spat. "You don't know what she means to you, to us." "Us?" Jack echoed, his breath uneven. The woman's face twisted in pain, but she held steadfast, her voice breaking through, raw and steady. "He's right. You can't escape it, Jack. None of us can." At that moment, sirens screamed closer, drowning the tension in urgency. A flash of red and blue lights illuminated the street, causing shadows to shift and dance. Jack's gut twisted. He struggled for control, for clarity. "What did we?" But before he could finish the thought, the man lunged forward. "You have to listen. They know." "They?" Jack asked. confusion flooding back in waves. "Don't play dumb." Mark's voice was sharp, desperate. "The ones pulling the strings. The ones who've watched you rise." The woman lowered her head. "You were never meant to forget, Jack. None of us were." Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows behind Mark. A woman. Long dark hair. Eyes that seemed to pierce right through the chaos. She raised a hand, calm and poised. "Stop, all of you." The atmosphere shifted. Tension thickened to a point of bursting. Jack felt the air crackle. "Who are you?" he demanded, desperation clawing at his throat. "You'll find out soon enough," she replied. "But be careful not to play the hero. Heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they carry chains." And just like that, the necklace caught the light again. A reminder of secrets deeper than anyone had anticipated. Jack stood frozen, blinking against the barrage of emotions swirling in his chest. Would he step into that darkness? Would the past swallow him whole? The answer felt closer than ever, but time was running out. The sirens wailed louder, and as chaos threatened to erupt, the choice loomed before him. Step forward into the abyss, or turn back to a life built on deceit. The city buzzed once more, but his world felt irrevocably changed. What lay ahead now whispered of truths unearthing everything he thought he knew. Jack stood frozen, the weight of the woman's gaze suffocating him. Sirens howled like wolves in the background, and the city buzzed with frantic energy. "Are you ready?" she had asked. But now, the urgency of the moment wrapped around them like a chokehold. Mark's voice snapped Jack back to reality. "You have to listen. They know." Jack's pulse quickened. "Who knows what?" Before Mark could answer, the woman stepped forward, determination radiating. "It's time to tell the truth, Jack. Time to face what we've hidden for too long." Then, just as the tension reached a boiling point, the shadows shifted dramatically. A flash of light burst from the alley next to them. A figure stumbled into view, bloodied and disoriented. It was the man in the leather jacket, the one Jack thought had been shot. He fell to his knees, gasping for breath, the echoes of chaos fading around him. "They're here," he managed, eyes wide with pure panic. "Jack, you have to know. The pendant, it's a..." And then the unthinkable happened. The woman's eyes went blank, lifeless. She dropped to the ground, the necklace slipping from her fingers, clattering against the pavement. Silence enveloped them like a shroud, the moment stretching painfully thin. Jack's heart plummeted. He rushed to her, fear coursing through him. "No, no, no!" He shook her gently, tears prickling at the corners of his eyes. She didn't respond. Mark was still standing, shock etched on his face. What did you do?" he muttered, disbelief sealing his voice. But then the air cracked again. The man, the one who had collapsed, struggled up, blood cascading down his shirt, and shouted, "It's not over! You all are part of it! Every last one!" "Part of what?" Jack yelled, desperation bubbling. "Do you even know what you're talking about?" In that moment, the world spiraled. The fallen woman's necklace lay glowing ominously on the ground, casting flickering shadows. The fallen figure, breathing heavily, revealed a glimmer of metal hidden beneath his jacket, drawing Jack's attention like a moth to flame. "Jack," he rasped, eyes locking onto him. "It's not just a necklace. It's a key to everything. Your past, our past. Shut up, Mark snapped, raising a hand. But Jack was already drawn in. What do you mean? Jack's voice trembled, the pieces of his memory slipping into place like a jigsaw puzzle. The Syndicate, the man wheezed. They've always been watching. They used you, Jack. Your rise, your success. They orchestrated it all. You were never meant to escape. Jack froze, blood running cold. You're lying. No! The man's eyes were wild. They want you back, Jack. It's part of the deal. And you've been running since that night. The air felt like ice. A gut punch of realization crashed into Jack. The darkness he had escaped was deeper than he realized. Jack, Mark's voice faltered, suddenly sounding unsure. It was a moment of vulnerability he'd never shown. In that instant, silence shattered. The sirens in the distance grew louder, a cacophony of urgency. The city surged around them, blinking lights reflecting the rising danger. The woman on the ground twitched. A breath escaped her, and her eyes flickered open. Shock, replacing the void. Jack, she gasped, and instinctively, Jack grabbed her hand. Stay with me, he shouted, heart racing. But the weight of what the man had said loomed over him. Shadows whispered of betrayal and deceit. The woman struggled to speak. You can't let them take you. Then, as if the universe conspired to rip the ground from under him, the shadows deepened. More figures emerged from the darkness, eyes glinting like knives. Each one stepped into the light, creating an unholy circle around them, slowly advancing. Jack's breath hitched. Would he confront his past? Step into a battle he never asked for? Or was the truth about to swallow them all whole? The city moaned with regret as the darkness wrapped around them, leaving Jack teetering at the precipice of chaos. The shadows deepened, thickening around them like a shroud. Jack's breath quickened as the figures advanced, looming closer. The fallen woman stirred, that flicker of life igniting a spark of hope. But their world felt like it was collapsing. Then, without warning, the air crackled with tension. A voice, sharp and clear, cut through the chaos. Enough! Heads turned as another figure stepped into the light. A woman, striking, with sharp features and wild hair, emerged from the swirling shadows. Jack's heart raced. It was Tara, his former business partner. He hadn't seen her in years. Get back, she commanded, stepping protectively in front of the woman. You don't understand what's happening. The sudden shift sent shockwaves through Jack. Tara, what are you doing here? I came to warn you, she shouted, scanning the group with fierce eyes. They're coming for the pendant, Jack. It's more than you think. It's everything. Mark glanced at Tara, confusion flashing on his face. What do you mean? She's just a casualty in all this. Casualty? Tara shot back, fire in her voice. You have no idea who she really is. The gravity of her statement hit like a punch. Jack felt confusion twisting into something sharper, something deeper. What do you know about her? Tara hesitated, glancing at the woman on the ground. She's part of the legacy, Jack, her sister. And then a realization hit Jack like a fist to the gut. Legacy? What do you mean? Her sister, Tara said, voice trembling slightly now, was the missing piece. The one who held the truth. The world around him paused as if the city itself was holding its breath. Jack felt caught in a net of tangled emotions. The woman's eyes darted back and forth, searching each face for clarity. What truth? Before anyone could answer, a series of loud crashes echoed in the distance. Machines, chaos brewing just out of view. The figures in black pressed closer, shadows shifting dangerously. In that moment of distraction, the woman suddenly pushed herself up, her hand trembling as she reached toward the necklace that had slipped across the concrete. It's not just a pendant, it's a key to erase the past. Jack's heart skidded. What do you mean? Then, against the backdrop of growing turmoil, a deafening roar erupted, a vehicle barreling toward them, lights blaring. The figures scattered, scrambling out of the way. Jack squinted, the scene unfolding like a nightmare. And then it struck him. The scales tipped. The truth crashed around him like waves, reshaping everything he thought he knew. The newest figure emerged from the vehicle. A woman, unmistakable, dressed in a sleek black suit. "Get away from them!" she shouted, voice cutting through the chaos. Jack's breath caught. No, it couldn't be. "Charlotte?" he breathed, shock coursing through him. She was the one he had left behind, the heart of his darkest choices. "Jack!" she yelled, eyes fierce and filled with regret. "You need to listen!" The realization of her connection to the story hung heavily in the air. Everything Jack had fought to escape, every choice, every nightmare, was spiraling back into view. "Charlotte!" he started, but silenced himself. Tara's voice cut through. "She knows the truth, Jack. Do you know what that means?" The world swirled, shadows clashing, truths unraveling. The lines were blurring. Jack felt his footing slip away. Charlotte stepped closer, desperation lining her features. "I've tried to keep you safe, Jack. They won't stop until they get what they want." The fallen woman raised her head, strength returning to her gaze. "Then let's show them we're not the ones they think they can control." Jack's stomach twisted. Would he join them? What would he risk for truth? Uncertainty threw him into chaos. And as he stared into the faces surrounding him, he realized everything was about to change again. The sirens were close now, but the storm was just beginning. Jack's heart raced with the weight of consequence, at the edge of a cliff where the past met the unpredictable. Would he step out into the chaos, or would he retreat into the shadow of his old life? Jack's heart raced. The atmosphere crackled with a mixture of fear and determination. They were a ragtag group now, bound by dark secrets and a frantic urgency. As Tara and Charlotte stepped closer, their presence feeling both like safety and a shroud of danger, Jack knew this was the moment to unravel everything. "Get her to safety!" Tara shouted, her voice fierce. Jack nodded, grabbing the fallen woman's hand, lifting her gently as if carrying the weight of all their pasts. He could feel the warmth fading from her grip. In the chaos, the crowd scattered further, people screaming as the figures in black moved in. The air itself felt thick, charged with unease. Jack glanced at Tara, determination etched into her features. "What's the plan?" he half shouted. "We fight back," she declared, eyes blazing. "But we have to get to the necklace. It's the only way to stop them." As Jack turned back, The necklace, the shimmering pendant, lay glowing ominously on the pavement. In that moment, realization washed over him. The pendant wasn't just a chain. It was a lifeline, a truth that could set them free or drag them deeper into darkness. "No!" Mark yelled, a hint of alarm cutting through the noise. "We can't let them have it!" And just like that, the figures closed in, masks obscuring their intent. Jack's gut twisted as he realized the stakes. This wasn't just about survival. It was about rewriting their fates. With a swift motion, Tara grabbed the necklace, lifting it high. "Everyone, focus!" The air shifted, tension crackling as the figures halted. In that instant, the woman stirred, breath coming slow but steady. "Jack, we have to trust each other," she whispered, her eyes pleading. Jack tightened his grip on her hand, unyielding. "I won't let you down," he promised, and an unexpected warmth spread through him. But before they could react, one of the figures lunged forward. In the confusion, Mark stepped into its path, a fierce protector. The two collided, body slamming into the ground, a fight igniting. "Now!" Tara shouted, pointing towards the vehicle blocking their exit, their escape route. Jack and the woman moved, clutching the necklace as they raced towards the car. Sirens wailed closer, echoing their adrenaline. They sipped inside, breathless, while Tara and Mark struggled to fend off the enforcers. "Come on!" Tara yelled, her voice fierce amidst the chaos, her eyes darting between Jack and Mark. "We can't keep this up!" With a deep breath, Jack turned the ignition. The engine roared to life. He didn't look back. The scene in the rear view was a storm of shadows. Then Charlotte leaned forward, urgency seeping through her voice. "You know what to do. Find the core. Make them face their own truths." Jack nodded, resolve surging. This wasn't just a fight. It was about reclaiming their stories. The future stretched out, uncertain but full of potential. As they sped into the night, the chaos behind them faded into the distance, but uncertainty lingered in the air, like static before a storm. Each of them was tied to the same unraveling tale, haunted by ghosts and driven by the need for redemption. Jack glanced at the woman beside him, her strength a flicker of hope. Would they manage to cut the strings? Would the truth expose the heart of darkness gripping them? Or would they still fall into the abyss they struggled to escape? As the city lights blurred, history chased them. But Jack knew one thing: the fight to reclaim their lives wasn't over. Now, this is your moment. If you've enjoyed this wild ride, you have to subscribe immediately. Don't miss out on our upcoming exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and get more amazing content. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about this epic ending. And don't wait even a second longer. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting our journey. Let's make sure nobody misses out.